What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Let's talk about rather questionable decision that the Federal Reserve took recently. Specifically, what I'm talking about is that Jerome Powell mentioned that they no longer want to wait until inflation hits 2% before starting cutting the rates. And this statement by Jerome Powell came as a result of the most recent CPI inflation report, which came at 3.3% for CPI core and 3% for CPI year over year. As you can see, still 50% above target of 2% inflation. One of the first financial institutions which reacted to this CPI inflation report was Barclays, which basically mentioned that they do expect the inflation going down in the near future. There will be some positive data by the end of the year, and their estimation for the inflation in the fourth quarter of this year is at 2.8%. Well, as you can see, still above target of 2%, which basically means that most likely there shouldn't be interest rate cuts just yet. But it all was cancelled completely when Jerome Powell went on stage and said, "Screw it, guys, let's do it. We're no longer gonna wait until inflation of 2%, we're gonna start cutting rates as soon as possible." According to him, and probably this is just the explanation that he has in his own head, the reason for this it is because of so-called lag effect, which basically means that the economic factors, economic things that they are doing right now, they will only have the effect on the inflation several months later. So they keep interest rates high, but the inflation will only continue budging months later. So basically, whenever they start reducing the interest rates for the next several months, the inflation will behave as the rates were still higher as they are right now. And another thing that he mentioned is that the Federal Reserve prefers PCE to CPI inflation, and this PCE inflation, the most recent report, showed at 2.6%, which is more favorable for the Federal Reserve. So it basically kind of looks like that they were like, okay, it's good enough, let's start cutting rates as soon as possible, whatever, we're not gonna wait anymore, it's okay, like who cares about this 0.6% extra, right? And even though Jerome Powell himself just yesterday mentioned that if you cut interest rates way too early, this can harm the economy even more, undoing all the process, and then eventually inflation re-accelerates while still you have economical problems. So him changing his narrative this fast was a little bit too unexpected, to say the least. So whether he just wants to present some good headlines for the media, or maybe he simply wants to return the trust of regular people to the Federal Reserve, the true motives of his actions, I guess we will not know, at least in the near future. And it's not like that the stock market took a nosedive recently, no. In fact, it was quite the opposite. For the last several weeks, the S&P 500, the Nasdaq indices, both of them were updating their all-time high numbers several times for the last several weeks. And so, as a result, after all, whatever is the real reason behind these preliminary interest rate cuts might turn out to be one of the biggest mistakes of the Federal Reserve's modern history. The economy, first of all, is not extremely stable, the inflation is obviously still there, and the performance of the entire stock market of thousands of companies is only carried by a handful of companies. It's not like that the stock market is doing exceptionally good as well. The correction of at least 10% is long overdue, and a lot of Wall Street companies, they confirm this assumption as well. And so if not handled properly, the economic problems, this might lead to a recession, or in the worst case scenario even stagflation. So my main question of this video is the following: can preliminary interest rate cuts be the reason for all these economical problems to resurface and to start happening? Guys, please let me know down below in the comments what do you think. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel if this was interesting, informative or both, and see you on Monday.